Does Afriforum recognize the Freedom Charter? Is it constitutional to charge EFF leader with a law enacted during Apartheid? Why is Afriforum saying the debate for land is a sensitive one? And what message do the white farmers accused of forcing a black man into a coffin want to send? What time is it? It's question time. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Mpho Sedu. Afriforum CEO Kallie Kriel says economic freedom fighters leader Julius Malema has to be accountable to the law. The organization brought charges against Malema for contravening the Riotous Assemblies Act after he urged blacks to occupy land in 2014. While the case has been postponed until next year, analysts say the apartheid legislation under which Malema has been charged should have been repealed by now. Meanwhile, the case of two Middleburg farmers accused of forcing a black man into a coffin has been postponed until next year. The two will not apply for bail and will remain in police custody until their next court appearance. Members of political parties protested outside court to show their rejection and condemnation of this racist act. We are live. And if we can call us and air your views, the numbers to dial 089-110-4210. But before we continue with the show, let's take a look at what EFF leader Julius Malema had to say when he was on Question Time yesterday.
Let there be a peaceful transfer of land back into the hands of the rightful owners. You know, the ANC was formed in 1912. And it has always pursued a peaceful protest until they realize it's not working for them. And that's when they took up arms. And we are traveling the same journey. And I wouldn't know what will happen in the future, but I'm saying, let there be a peaceful transfer of land without any drop of blood.
Okay, that was Julius yesterday right here on Question Time. My guest today, Stephen Petersen, is the spokesperson for Afribusiness, and joining us from our Pretoria studio is political analyst Professor Lesiba Tefu. Let me welcome both of you to the show. Perhaps let me start with you. You are with Afriforum, correct?
Afribusiness.
Yeah.
Afribusiness, but that's just the business right watchdog, and Afriforum is more a civil rights watchdog.
Okay. Why were you not seen at today's court appearance of the two farmers who are accused of forcing the black fellow into a coffin?
Well, firstly, let me start by saying we strongly condemn what that two farmers has been doing, and we hope that justice will happen there. Where we was at that time, we were at the Pretoria High Court with another matter, so unfortunately we could not have made it. But we strongly condemned what those two farmers has been doing.
But it's unlike your movement. I mean, I'm sure if this was about President Zuma or somebody else, you would have been, you know, there on time. But I want to question your morality to say, is it because we're talking of a black person here? That is why Afriforum or Afribusiness was not seen at that court appearance today?
I cannot speak for Afriforum at all. I don't have that mandate.
Okay.
I do not work for them. But from Afribusiness' side of view, we are interested in economic growth. And the good thing about that is that it has no color. We would like to see the economy flourish. We strongly condemn any form of racism towards blacks or towards whites, and simply because we were in the North Gauteng High Court today, we wasn't there, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the case that is involving Julius Malema. Does Afribusiness recognize the Freedom Charter?
Yes.
Do you also recognize the...
You're talking about recognize the existence of that?
Well, do you accept it as a document that is informing policies of the land?
It is. it's in fact. It's a document. We have to acknowledge it. It's there. It's published, and it would be simply foolish not to accept it. It's there.
No, I'm saying, do you also accept that it is a governing document of the ruling party?
Yes, absolutely. I think there's a lot of things that we disagree in there, but that it's a document and that it's in force, and that it's a document by which the governing party wants to run the country. That's a fact. Absolutely, yes.
What's your view on the land question?
So let me firstly say that I think people over the last 15 to 20 years, actually longer, have voted with their feet. And if you see the way that especially the metros has been growing over the last 15 to 20 years, then one needs to ask the question, is the question land, is it farming, or is it unemployment? My simple explanation on the land issue is that if land was stolen, give it back to any person. There's a law that governs the process. I know for the 2016-2017 year, a budget of 10 billion rand has been allocated for that. So that process needs to follow itself. But is the question really land? Because if it's land, and then we would like to see more farmers coming through the system. We would like to see, from Agribusiness's side of view, that title deeds are being awarded to people that the land goes to, and that they won't be simply hiring the land, but getting title deeds, because that will help economical growth. People have access to I think access to land is a first step, but the most important thing is getting surety about that property. A title deed would do that. It would enable those people to go to a bank and obtain a loan. But at this stage, the land that is being transferred is transferred from mostly white farmers to the government. And about a week or 2 weeks ago, we saw 29 farms in a new corruption scandal. And by addressing this as it has been done, surely the issue won't be solved.
Prof, let's talk about the laws that are governing the land, or the land question in South Africa. Are they compatible with the era that we're living in?
Well, I think a lot is being done to ensure that those who don't have the land have access to it. And I think under Minister Nkwinti, there are initiatives that are intended to deal with the deficiencies that are found in yesteryear's legislation. There are challenges related to those who you and I know, and then I think the new act that I think is in the offing will, to some extent, try to deal with the challenges. But at one level, it's not only about access to the land. It's about what does with that land once it has been given to him or to her. It's good to have restitution, but I suspect there are those who may argue today that it has not been helpful to give land back to the blacks if you don't provide attended support, trainings, skills, equipment, and so on to ensure that they perform. And in areas where there were partnerships, we have seen at least the value and the benefit of that restitution.
Okay.
To the extent possible, let's make land possible for residential purposes. But there is land also for agriculture. There is also land for commercial purposes. So there are various ways to look at it, but I'm sure the struggle was about the land and not air-conditioned offices.
Courage, you're calling us from around Johannesburg.
Thank you so much, Mpo, for having me on the program.
Yeah.
I would like to quickly point out that it's very much saddening to see such things unfolding in South Africa, especially after, Comrade Nelson Mandela forgave transgressions of, white people during Apartheid. It is quite clear that the white minority has refused to reform, have refused to actually align themselves with the present-day Constitution of South Africa that calls for oneness, that calls for unity. They want to, classify themselves better than black people. And I think time is up. They ought to reform or actually face the consequences. The apartheid law that you just spoke about actually is still law until maybe some legislative amendments have been made. So it is up to the government to look into it and see what can be done so that they align these laws that are out of order so that, they are compatible to today's South African laws. So Afriforum is known to be ruthless, to be favoring the white minority, and that has to stop. They don't have to hide behind the finger. It is known that they are pro-white and that they actually represent the views of white people only. The gentleman you are seated with there representing Afriforum business is also one person who's just being not truthful. He represents whites, he represents racism in South Africa, and that must stop really. Africa is for everybody, including other races, and we don't want to see white people behaving as if they are better than other black people. But it's very, very threatening, and it won't be tolerated.
Courage, thank you very much for that call. What's your take on that?
I have tried to listen to everything. I think it is one cannot say that the guilt belongs to the white people and the white people only, because that's making the thing racial again. But I do think that the previous government screwed up a lot, and I think the current one is also, because the land has been transferred and is still being transferred to the government and not to black people that need and want it. So let's look at a province like the Northern Cape. About a third of South Africa is in the Northern Cape. So when you talk about land distribution and you say it should go to black people, is that land included or excluded? Let's look at that bill in which they want to put a 12,000 land hectare ceiling on the transfer of property. It's bad for property rights in South Africa.
Do you acknowledge that black people don't have land?
Yes.
Do you also acknowledge that they need land?
Yes.
Do you agree that they must be given land?
They must.
Do you support government's restitution?
I think government's restitution program are very bad and badly executed and full of corruption. That's what I do think. Because every single entrepreneurial grant where small black farmers are taken to big ones are driven through entrepreneurial partnerships.
Okay.
And so what government does is it does the lawmaking and the policies on top, but at ground level, they are completely removed from what those black farmers experience at ground level.
Tiki, are you in Ventersdorp?
Yes.
Welcome.
Yes, Mpho. Ne ke batla fela go bua le ntate ona wa African business.
Restefan.
Yes. Ha ke tlhaloganya ntho a e buang ena. Afriforum le Afribusiness ke ntho e one, and then so te mo plekeng ye mo batho ntate ole a natsinya mo lekasing. Ke pleke e leng gore batho ba rona ba tlhekefetswa haholo teng ko. Jwale ka teng mo Ventersdorp mona. Mo Ventersdorp le teng mo. So a ke batla go botsa potso ya gore ba gore bona ba protecta batho ba ba sweu kgotsa ba protecta batho ba ba ntsho na ka ba na ke ke ba bona mo ba protecta batho ba rona ke yo le fela potso le ke batla gore o mpompoletse yone mo gene mo ke a leboga Mpho.
Ke lebogile thata re botiki ko Ventersdorp. Well, the question there, you understand, Ston?
I didn't. A few words, but I couldn't understand. Please.
Well, what he's saying is, who do you actually represent? Whose interests do you represent? Black people's interest, white people's interest?
So the biggest problem in South Africa is unemployment. And so from our perspective, what we do represent is a growing rate that's negative towards going positive. We have white members, we have black members, we have colored members. And for me to racialize this thing is completely foolish. Unemployment has no color, because more than 70% of the people who are offered either restitution or money, and that's in the words of Gwedi Mantashe as well, said the people want money.
Okay.
And so that's the key thing that has
All
to
right.
be addressed.
We need to take a quick break. When we return, we'll continue our discussion. Please don't go away, and we'll be taking your calls on 089-110-4210. This is Question Time.
It doesn't always make sense.
It's easy to ignore.
It's always asking questions. What if cars could drive themselves? What if we could drive on the moon? What if headlights were lasers? What if cars could run on water or even air?
It's called your imagination.
And if you listen to it,
Great things will happen.
it's what we do at Audi. It's what we call Vorsprung.
Make your house ultra homey with Macro's big festive season savings on appliances like Samsung inverter air conditioners now $8,599 each, save 2,000 Rand. A Philips air fryer and hand blender combo, get both for only 1,999 and save 1,000 Rand. And how cool is the Hisense 340-litre frost-free fridge for 5,999, save 500 Rand. Share in these and other big festive savings for home, for business, for life. Only at Macro, big on life.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. Let's take another look at the interview we had yesterday with Julius. Oh, okay. Unfortunately, we don't seem to have that ready anyway. Let's rather take a caller from Luitregat. Is it Raymond?
Hi, thank you for taking my call, Mpo.
Yes.
Mpo, one thing that I want to raise with regard to the issue of land, I think land is a very serious issue in South Africa, particularly when you look at the emerging farmers. One thing that we need to, as South Africans, we shouldn't underestimate black emerging farmers as they won't be able to farm. You must take into account a black child was born with a black mind. The same with a white child was born with a black mind. So what makes a black farmer, a white farmer, better than a black farmer is because of the privileges that they had. So if we give the same privileges to the emerging black farmers, the same, they will also prosper as well. That's what I want to say.
Thank you very much, Raymond, in Standani there. Prof, what Raymond is saying, yes, it's true that if you expose the two to the same amount of information and perhaps resources, they would produce the same. But you have the reality that Zebediela, for instance, right? It's no longer producing dinamune, as we have known Zebediela to be dinamuning. And this only happened after the farm there was given to the locals.
Yeah, look, I think it's easy to be politically correct and to use cheap political rhetoric. And Afrikaner, as far as I know, is one of the best farmers under the sun. It doesn't matter where you go. Research will also speak to that across the globe. You go to the Germans, go for their technology, they are known for that, right? We are all given and gifted in different ways. We must acknowledge that. And I have seen instances where, right, Africans, when given an opportunity, will farm to the extent their knowledge, their expertise can take them. But again, if you take farming as a lifestyle, not something opportunistic, something you do for status, but you consider it as a lifestyle, very few, especially those who have money in their pocket, especially the entrepreneurs who are inclined to buy plots and farms, but they cannot use them. We must make a difference between those. But the subsistence farmer needs the land. And the subsistence farmer is the one I'm interested in. Give him the necessary support and help him to grow and to grow until he can be a competitive farmer vis-a-vis others. Yes, you have given a good example. One man called Slasenja, right? ran the citrus farm and made it a competitive plant across the globe. I remember in 2000, I think it's 2086, and at the World Cup and even at the Olympics, the citrus oranges of South Africa would be exported across the globe. You'd find them in Berlin, in Cologne, in Brussels, in London. When you picked up an orange, you'd see written there, Slazenger or citrus fruit, Zebediela. That was handed over to us after 1994. What did you do? What did we do? Go to Zenin. We had the tea plantations, universally renowned. Where are they today? I'm not blaming the African. I'm blaming ourselves for failure to capacitate, to empower, and to give the necessary resources to those that we allocate the land. Okay. If we make restitution with all that goes with it, let's make it available.
Cedric, you are in Tembisa. Yes, my brother.
How's it, man?
I'm good, man. How's it?
Sure, man. Look, man, we are speaking a big stuff here. That is a big issue. And now, I'm speaking right now, I'm in Tembisa. I hear them. They are saying land must be for agriculture and to distribute it for residential purposes. It's fine, but for us, we don't have land. Look at us here in Tembisa, Davitor, Soweto. People are populated. People are growing. The population is growing.
Correct.
Yeah, we need land. At least this land is big. Go to KwaZulu-Natal or go to Annual North or Northwest, where you will see the land is very big. And it's empty. It's just empty. We need the land because now we are renting. Black people are renting, are populated. You know, we are suffering.
I get your point. Cedric. Thank you very much. Now, what do you do to empower the black communities as well?
I think the key thing here is education. I read the story this week about Sendile Shezi. I don't know if you know about him. He's 23 years old and he's one of the richest, one of the most recent black millionaires. And he made it through trading.
Okay.
And he went to not one university. So Sandile Shezi, who's a millionaire, can go to any person, the government, a white, a brown, or Indian person, and say, I want your farm. He can even buy in Kandla if he wants to. And that is the liberty that education brings. What people need to do that is they need mentorship, they need education, they need opportunities, and they need partnerships. I don't believe in getting anything for free. But like I said, if something was stolen, give it back to that person.
Was the land stolen?
Let me explain to you.
No, just answer without explanation.
Which part, sir? Because that is the determining factor. Look, in the beginning, I assumed that Adam and Eve was here, and everybody else had to take land. But a nation cannot steal land. A person can. And when that has been done, three things has to be proven. What was stolen, by who, and when.
So how do you explain this exorbitant amount of wealth that white people have in terms of land ownership? How do you think they amassed that?
Yeah, let's like I just explained, if you took the big South Africa that we have, and you look at the report by Sir John Cain Berman, he said that there's more than enough land available for farmers, black and white. And so the most property that have to be in the hands of farmers and black farmers are lying now in the hands of the state and not being used.
Prof, as we wrap up, do you think the next elections are going to be fought on land?
Well, look, the land question has to be addressed, and to be addressed as a matter of agency. Lest we have populists and opportunists come to confuse the situation to the extent we find ourselves behaving like the Zimbabweans did, that belatedly Mugabe suddenly realized, on the eve of losing power, that he must come with a policy that destroyed the SADC bread basket. Land has to be addressed through the limits of the law. And those who have, while it is still possible, And that's where I agree with Julius. While it is still possible, let's sit down and share. Because when it gets too late, opportunities will come in, and then we might rue the day when we ought to have done, and indeed done what we ought to have done in order to save ourselves and at least to leave a legacy for posterity.
Prof, thank you very much. Do you support Julius?
I don't. I think what he's been doing to incite people to occupy land is very bad for Section 25 of the Constitution.
Okay.
And simply for that reason, it's bad.
Okay. We've run out of time, unfortunately.
Thank you.
But that was question time for today. A big thank you to my guest and to you for watching the show. From me and the crew, I have a